Hey class, my name is Nicholas Paget, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Assemblies of God, history, missions, and government class. More specifically, on who Gen Z is, common struggles they have, and the best way to teach them for the gospel. Before anything else, we need to go through who Gen Z is. Gen Z is comprised of individuals who were born since 1995, specifically because that is also the year that the internet became publicly available for everybody to get their hands on. I was born in 2002, and so technically, well, not technically, I am Gen Z. So out of habit, you may catch me saying we when talking about Gen Z. So sorry in advance for that. So as I said earlier, Gen Z was the first generation to have access to both internet and social media for pretty much our entire lives. In 2007, the iPhone was introduced. It was the first smartphone. And 4 years later, in 2011, most of Americans had a smartphone device. They had the internet in the palm of their hands, and they had social media and all that fun stuff. Well, 2011 was also about around the year that many Gen Z students started school, whether it be grade school, middle school, or high school. And sadly, that's also the year that depression and suicide rates started to soar across, based off research. By 2015, 2/3 of American students had smartphones of their own, on average checking them 80 times a day. And I would argue that that number has shot up even more as of recently as battery life has gotten better. So before we know how to better reach Gen Z, we need to know what Gen Z struggles with. In his article, Translating Our Message to Generation Z, Tim Elmore spoke to many students to get their outlook on things. He noted that they worry a lot on the future. One shocking quote that he got from a sixth grader is, "I'm glad we have ISIS, because without them, we would be living our lives as a lie, thinking that everything else is okay when really nothing is okay." One thing that Tim Elmore noted was that Gen Z loves the internet. They love it. They can't get enough of it, but they don't trust it. Around 2020, artificial intelligence started going mainstream. It could write essays. It could even make videos of bizarre instances that would never happen in real life. But at first, everyone thought that it was hilarious because it was so obviously fake. You just had to count the fingers on most of the videos. They would have like 20 fingers or something obscene. But now, in 2025, you really need a keen eye to know if something's real or fake, and sometimes that's not even enough. Gen Z also seems to feel very isolated in their upbringing. One jarring quote in an interview Tim had is, "My parents are mostly clueless to the stuff that's going on in my life. When they take my phone away, I just go online through my iPad." And finally, they build their identities on social media. The most convincing quote to me is, "If my friends post something online and it doesn't get enough likes, they take it down fast. It's our social report card." 10th grade male and female. With them being the first generation with the internet and social media, they're constantly exposed to violence, racism, and questioning authority, and so much more. I really like Tim's quote where he asked the question, "What kind of kid would you have been if you had grown up in this world?" In the article, The Struggles of Generation Z and the Future of North American Missions Organizations, they talk a lot about more in depth on the struggles Gen Z has when it comes to their social media presence. Some of the things they marked off were addiction to video games and pornography. Gen Z spent about 6 hours a day online before the pandemic, roughly divided equally between social media, gaming, and internet use, including the use of pornography. Whereas young women are primarily affected by negatively by social media, young men tend to experience more negative effects from gaming and pornography. With all that said, there are a few helpful ways we can work on engaging the next generation, specifically Gen Z. The first thing is that Gen Z really, really needs genuine connection. We talked about how AI is going on and how a lot of Gen Z's social structure is digital. It's not physical, it's not tangible. And we have a lot of a hard time of knowing what's real, what's genuine. And so the biggest thing is build a connection with Gen Z. If you have Gen Z students or if you have Gen Z attendees at your church, be invested in them. Establish a genuine connection just to get to know who they are personally. Studies have shown that Gen Z has a really bad habit of multitasking. And that sounds great and everything, but in the study shows that a lot of Gen Z typically juggle 5 screens at a time, just constantly getting that endorphin boost, that dopamine boost, and ingesting everything that they can. So they're very much so get information and then really quickly. And so the best way to present a message to them is to give them the facts and to keep it short and concise and answer any questions they may have. So also help them do it. Don't just do it for them. Whenever we help somebody walk towards a goal instead of just shoving them, it gives them a personal sense of achievement, a personal sense of pride, and it allows them to be more grounded in it. Next is to seek to expose rather than impose. So instead of imposing rules on them, get to know them, get to know what they're struggling with, kind of walk through with that, and be with them and guide them as they process those very real feelings. Be real rather than cool. I'm sure we've all seen youth pastors who put on the wackiest glasses they can to look cool. They do this, they say all the lingo that the kids say, they speak in buzzwords. That's not helpful. And chances are, if you are talking to Gen Z and you look cool and you're doing everything look cool, you may come across as this.
Hey Nick, I have a question about Galatians chapter 6, verse
7. What's your question? What's your question, Jacob?
So can you tell me about the burdens of bear one another burdens?
Yeah, burdens are pretty poggers. They're pretty sigma. They're pretty pog-champ. Basically, what this is saying is... So with all that to say, Gen Z is not a lost cause, and if anything, they have such good potential. They are very creative, and if we're able to meet them where they're at, to show them the love of God and to keep the same message, but present it in a way that's more engaging and more personable for the students, then there's no doubt in my mind that we'll be able to reach the next generation for Christ, and we'll get to see how they invest in the generation that comes after them, after we've raised them up. Thank you.